Security Out Podcast is proudly sponsored by Titans Arms, Precision Wellness Group, and Pure Liberty Labs.
You get to sit down and brush elbows with some of America's greatest warriors. But on this show, I get to do it every single day. Cameron, welcome to Security Out Podcast, man.
Thanks, Denny. I appreciate you having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Dude, absolutely, man. You're somebody that speaks directly to the veteran that's getting out and is like, I want to do something great. I know I have it in me to do amazing things, but where the fuck can I start? Where do I go? And seeing somebody from our special operations community on fucking TV, on one of the biggest fucking platforms doing cool, you didn't go there to do an American Bake Off. You weren't on America's Who's Got Talent. No, you're like, I'm a badass fucking ranger, and I'm going to show you these cool fucking things I learned over my career, and I'm going to do it 100% with my full identity of who I am, what I'm here for, and I'm not going to fucking try to cookie cutter. I'm going to show you who the fuck I am. So Cameron, I want to dive into your story, dude. Not just like,
Sure.
We're going to get into the great TV stuff, but dude, where did you begin this life of like, I think I want to serve? Like, where did this all begin for you?
Well, first and foremost, do they teach you how to flatter people in special forces? Because you're really good at it. Dude, thank you so much. That was a killer intro. I really appreciate that. You know, I'm flattered, really. But, you know, just diving in of where it all began, my mom and my dad met and then kind of fell in love with each other. No, I'm kidding. That's a little too early. But I was born in Los Angeles, California. I grew up in a two-parent household, you know, so pretty standard childhood, right? Not a lot of adversity. I know you were telling me a little bit about yourself, you know, and your scenario there. And that's, I went to a suburban school. I had, you know, I got a car when I was
Polar
16.
opposite.
Granted, it was a Scion TC. It wasn't my mom's. Yeah. So, you know, there's that. That's a little adversity right there.
I'll put a picture of that car because Scion TC was ahead of its time, folks.
It was great. It had a little Rice Axleback exhaust on it. You could hear me coming from miles away, man. It was great. You know, a two-parent household. They divorced when I was in middle school, but I had a really good childhood. You know, I always had a roof over my head. I was always fed. My mom was very encouraging in the aspect of try stuff. Just go out and try stuff. When I was a kid, I played every single sport other than basketball because 5'7". Now, you know, that wasn't the recipe for success. But basically played almost every sport. I picked up and, you know, learned about 6 instruments growing up. My dad was a musician and a hairstylist. My mom was a fashion designer. So I came from a very creative household. So they were very encouraging. In fact, just go try things. But the one thing that like stuck, because I'd pick up the guitar, play for about a month, and I've always played the guitar for a little bit, but I put it down, try something new, pick up drums, you know, pound around a little bit, then pick up the saxophone, trumpet, but it never really stuck. The one thing that always stuck with me was the interest of military. So yeah, I remember, you know, going back, being 12 years old, like going to the World War II museums that they have like these little pop-up museums in the Valley in Los Angeles of like, you know, they have some Korea memorials, they have some World War II memorials. And I'd go there and I've always been obsessed. My 5th grade project was on General MacArthur, you know. So like,
it's pretty heavy for a 5th grader.
Yeah, dude. So I remember I dressed up like General MacArthur and said, you know, I shall return. And dude, I remember it all. So I've always had an interest in military, and I have no idea where it came from because nobody in my family served, at least voluntarily. I have some German side that, you know, I don't get into so much. Yeah, but that's okay, man. It was, you know, funny story is I always thought I was the only one in my family because, you know, my father didn't serve. He migrated here from Germany when he was in his 20s. My mom was, you know, of Latin descent. Her parents were immigrants. So, you know, I always thought I was first generation military. My grandma passed about a year ago. And my dad went over there, like brought back all the belongings and stuff. And I was going through some pictures and I was like, who the hell is this? He's like, oh, that's your great grandfather. SS uniform. And I'm like, God damn it.
He was fucking awesome, though.
Yeah, I was like, Jesus, man. I always thought I was the only one. So I always say I'm the first volunteer. Oh, yeah. But anyways, so Yeah, no idea where the interest came from, but I always had a massive amount of respect for service members. You know, anytime I'd see them in public, you know, the recruiters running around it'd always be like, "Thank you for your service." You know, I do anything I can to be really close to these because in my mind, these were what these were what men looked like. At least that's what I saw myself, or when I envisioned like what a strong man was, I saw a service member. Not trying to be exclusive to the genders here, but that's what I saw. But so when I was 16, I went to the army. I started going to the recruiters' offices because my mom she was pretty supportive. She knew this was like my dream, and I would just the first stop was the Marine Corps because obviously they have the best marketing,
Yeah,
and everybody believes that the Marine Corps is the best until you join the
bro.
army, and you're like, dude,
Yeah, yeah. They got us on the uniform, man. They got
exactly.
us
They
on the
got us on the
uniform, dude.
uniform.
And
Yeah,
the commercials, like the
sure, sure, sure.
slaying of the dragon commercial. Fuck, that close. It almost got me. Like, wait a second. The moment he fucking slays the dragon and the dress uniform magically appears, is like, all right, I want to be cool.
Exactly, I gotcha. But first job was a Marine recruiter. I had my like Marine hat on, my Marine lanyard, and I went to all the future Marine. Like I was depped in the Marine Corps, and then my mom was like, "You know what? You need to really be smart about this." She's like, "I know." She's like, "How much have you really researched about the different branches?" And I'm like, I watched like a YouTube video about a dragon. And then she's like, just look up the budgets. And I looked up the budgets, and
Mm,
Marine Corps had the least, or like it was on the bottom of the totem pole for budgets. And she's like,
damn.
"You're a big gear guy, right?" Because I was like super into airsoft and I collected gear, and I was super into like Chris Costa and Travis Haley at the time, Magpul
Yeah,
Dynamic shit. We all had the DVDs,
bro.
and yeah, they revolutionized the training
They did. They
at
did.
the time.
Absolutely.
And so I was super into gear, and she's like, "If you join the Marine Corps, chances of getting all this fancy schmancy stuff is slim to none." And I was like, "I'm gonna go talk to the army."
Your
So
mom's smart. That's a
yeah,
smart
dude.
lady right there, man.
Yeah, like superb manipulation on her part. Yeah. So I walked into the army recruiter, and these luckily the two recruiters that I dealt with were just savages. They were infantry guys, behemoths. These are the guys that I thought of. They were like both over 6'2", drove fucking V8 Mustangs, jacked up, and they're like, "What do you want, kid?" I'm like, fucking sitting there looking up at them, and I'm like, "I want to be infantry." Yeah. Weighing a buck. So, but they were excellent mentors. At the time, it was Sergeant Walls was like my mentor, but now, he's First Sergeant Walls. He's still doing
Man,
it.
what?
Yeah. Well, big shout out to him for putting me on the path of like what a good infantryman should be. But yeah, when I was 16, boom, signed my contract, and I was in the future like delayed entry program. So the
Mhm.
second I got my high school diploma, I was literally on a bus to Fort Benning, Georgia to do OSIT. So yeah, I didn't have a summer that year. But that was
They
kind of
dove right in.
yeah, dude, right in. So and that's what I wanted. It was funny because nobody that knew me, if you I didn't have any of like the precursors of this guy's going into the military because the
Yeah.
one thing I did in like middle school and in high school was I was a dancer, dude. I was on a
Really?
Yeah, I was on a professional adult hip hop company, and we would travel
Damn.
around the West Coast and compete. Like, I got to meet like the Jabberwockies and all these guys that were on like
Yeah,
America's
yeah.
Best Dance Crew. And it's funny because you said America's Got Talent. I was actually on America's Got Talent when I was in high
Get
school.
the fuck out of here.
Granted, we did not make it, but I
I did
still
my
had that.
research. I did not see this.
Yeah, no, I've done my due diligence and I have buried that footage. It is non-existent.
A cool 45K. It does
Yeah,
not
dude, it was
exist.
yeah, no, it was funny because, like, yeah, I was a professional dancer, and they put us in like before I joined the army, they put me in this boy band, and they're like, "We're gonna try out for America's Got Talent," and I was like, okay, if this works out, maybe I'll delay my enlistment and see to be rich and famous. But it did not work out, and I'm like, we're on a bus. Uh, so that was it, man. So I mean,
All right, we
those
gotta
skills,
pause. We
though.
gotta dissect this a little bit.
Sure, sure, sure.
We hear mom is supportive and she's smart enough to be like, hey, look at the budgets. Like
Yeah,
let's look at who's get the most funding. But what about your dad? Like a lot of us
sure.
that I didn't have that experience, but I've talked to a lot of friends, family, and guests that did have a supportive father.
Yeah.
I would imagine that he would have, wanted to have a sit down with you and talk to you about this decision because you're his boy. What was
Yeah,
that
daddy's
like?
boy. Yeah,
Yeah,
so, dad actually had way more pushback than mom.
really.
Yeah, so my dad wasn't as supportive as my mom. He's German. He comes from a
Yeah.
completely different culture, where his view of the military had always been negative just because he's like, why would you? I remember multiple times he would tell me, why would you go, put yourself out there in a dangerous environment to die for like politicians? And
Mm.
I'm like, shut up. Yeah, no, but no, my dad was like, he's always been really supportive, but that was the one thing he ever like pushed back on. And because I would bet money that it was just because of his upbringing. He had a negative experience with the military, which, came later to find out. My uncle was diagnosed with schizophrenia when they were younger. And my uncle in Germany at the time, it was like mandatory service. So it was like
Mm.
volunteer. Either you volunteer, do 2 or 3 years in the German military, or you can do, help geriatrics. That's what it was explained to me as. When he was growing up and his uncle went, or at least my uncle went and his brother joined. And I remember he used to tell my father that, like, you know, we didn't know at the time that it was schizophrenia. Nobody knew, but he would like imagine bombs going off during training and be, so he would tell my father, whatever you do, don't join. And so my father like did everything he can not to join. So I'm pretty sure that like,
Yeah.
experience there. And it was till, a few years ago now that I've been out for, 6 or 7 years of active duty. It was a couple years from the guard. Like that, I kinda understood that was, like, his
Yeah.
reservations. But at the end of the day, my father's always been a really good man, and a great father. So, he might have not always been, like, my ideal version of a man. Maybe that's why I looked at service members as, like,
Mm.
they were tough. They had, they lived by a creed, and they showed up every day like, it was the first thing they ever did every time. And my dad, he was a musician and a hairstylist. So
Yeah.
complete opposite, but his strengths were things that I didn't recognize at the time, which now I'm like, after in reflection and in hindsight, I'm like, those are
You can see
aspects that
it.
made me the man I am today. So, and that's
Absolutely.
like, yeah,
Yeah. We have to understand that strength, masculinity, and being a good man, it doesn't have to be defined by one linear path. It doesn't have to be
absolutely.
defined by just being a service member, by being an infantryman. No, like
Yeah.
everybody deserves the opportunity to live the life and follow the pursuit of happiness. And we have to be able to respect and see the greatness that everybody has, especially our parents, man. Especially
Yeah.
if we got good parents, but they were they weren't exactly what we thought because we grew up and we idolized one thing. But it's
Yeah.
great to see that you were able to recognize it and maintain like the understanding of like, hey, my dad's still a great individual. He's still
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
dad.
It took work too. That's the thing. It's like, when I got out of the military, and I guess I'm jumping around here, like had a
Perfect thing for
big,
us to do here.
yeah. No, but when I got out of the military, I struggled with identity like a
Yeah.
lot. Man, and I can't name one veteran that just got out smoothly and was like, "That was cool," on to the next thing. But no, I really struggled with identity, and not in the fact that, like, being a ranger, that's a great identity to have, and it's not the fact that struggle with loss of identity, because every single day I still am a ranger every single day. I still live the
Hell
ranger
yeah.
creed every single day, at least the good parts of it, which to me is every part. But
Yeah.
I'm biased. But, the identity is, not just doing ranger things, but, there are the negative correlations with that, which could be extremely destructive behavior. And that was the identity that I struggled with because I was trying to do this still in the civilian world, which might have
Yeah.
been acceptable in ranger regiment and oftentimes encouraged, the drinking, the work hard, play hard, that type of aspect. And it, when I got out, it fucking bit me. It bit
Yeah.
me, and I'm just like, "I'm just doing what I've been doing for years," and that was also like, crushing weakness, which, at the time I saw in my dad, and not like
Yeah.
taking a step back because, like, they're in Ranger Regiment, you respect the guys that are, you respect your enlisted because it is an extremely competitive environment, and you won't make it that far unless you were this exact model, right? You
Hmm.
have to fit that mold perfectly or you will not last. It's just statistics and it's facts in Ranger Regiment. The biggest killer of Rangers are Rangers, right? Because they're the ones that kick you the fuck out if you can't make the standard.
Dude, it's brutal. It's
It
brutal,
is
man.
brutal. There is no room for slacking. There is no room for like, I think I'm going to take it easy today, because you will just get absolutely chewed up and spit out.
The hardest thing I've ever witnessed, and I saw it with some of my teammates, because some of the best dudes you'll meet are the guys that mess up and have like, there's not even that much room for mess up. Literally, you mess up and you're gone. And your next thing you know, you're on you got orders of Fort Hood. So fuck
Yeah,
that. I'm
yeah,
gonna go to selection. So I got
yeah,
plenty of friends, plenty of Green Beret friends that have that story of like, I fucked up one minor thing, and one day I go from being a hero to being a fucking zero, and I found myself going to Fort Hood, and I
yeah,
got there and I went immediately straight to fucking selection.
yeah,
But
man.
the worst ones are the guys that don't get that opportunity, and it does lead to fucking loss of identity, loss of family. When you get removed from Ranger Regiment, where you're a fucking professional athlete, and
Yeah,
then you get orders
literally.
of Fort Sam Houston. It's like, all right, well, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm fucking done. I'm out of here. I'll check
yeah.
out.
Hang up the cape. Yeah, hang up the cape.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I'm sitting here when I get out thinking that's who I still need to be. Like, I mean, great things as an individual, right? Because you're always maintaining your physical appearance or your ability to perform, right? Being a protector, doing the best at all times that you can, giving 100% every single day. So those are the great things that came out. But the negative things are, now I'm comparing like, my father and my
yeah,
peers in the civilian world I'm holding them to the same expectations that I would hold my squad to, or to my platoon members, which is no, you can't do that.
yeah.
It's not fair, and it's wrong, because that's a completely different lifestyle. So, I get out and I'm like holding my dad to these standards, thinking like, I need you to be strong. I need you to be tough. I need you to be I need you to be decisive. I need you to be violent. I need you to be, I need you to be
Yeah.
a ranger. And my dad's a small German musician hairstylist. And it's just like, okay, after a lot of work and thought and me going through this identity crisis, it took therapy, it took counseling, it took me being in jail. Like,
Shit.
yeah, and I'm
Damn.
happy to get into that, because that was like, I hit a low. It hasn't all been peaches and cream for me. It's, so I sit here completely open to be like, yo, just because, I'm on Netflix and I've managed to appear like I'm super successful. I've had my own trials and tribulations that got me here.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's important to understand too. Like, it's important to understand and humanize this process of what it really means to leave a high achieving environment and struggle with it. Like, there's the Ranger standard. Every friggin' day you wake up and it's like, I have to meet the standard from to lieutenant colonel. That is a standard, and you're gonna fucking abide by it. Or in the moment you slack, you're done. Get out of here. What the
yeah,
fuck do you do when you get out? What happens to that Ranger when he gets out? And
yeah,
there's no squad. There's nobody there with you. It's just you. And what
yeah.
you've shared so far, it's like, it's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, it is, man. I'll tell you, look, I'll give you a good story here. Everyone in special operations, even the army, even the military, you work super hard. In my opinion, the military is one of those jobs that's 24/7. Even though it's the weekend, even though you take off the military and you grow a little, your uniform, you take off your uniform, you grow a little stubble on the weekends. Everybody knows you're in the military. And not to mention, they don't say, oh, you work as a soldier. It's like, oh, you are a soldier. Oh, you work
Mhm.
as a Green Beret. Oh, no, you are a Green Beret. You work as a Ranger. You are a Ranger. You're that 24/7 until you get out, or you stop claiming it, or you you know, just give up. The work hard, play hard was a big thing. You work Monday through Friday. I'd get in at 06, work out 09, work starts. We'd get off 6 p.m. when we weren't doing a range. Sometimes we get off at 3:30 in the morning, 4 in the morning, because whatever you do during the day, you do at night. And Washington summers, the sun does not go down until like 10. So like, you are truly working. That was the hardest job I've ever had in my life. So on weekends, even maybe sometimes starting on Thursdays, we'd all go out to the bars and fucking go crazy. And that was just habitual habit. That was just habitual. So that was the SOP. You work really hard, and on the weekends you go drink with your boys. So, I literally ran an FMP on the last day that I got out of the military.
This episode is also brought to you by Precision Wellness Group. Getting your hormones optimized shouldn't be a difficult task, and Dr. Taylor Bosley has changed the game. Head on over to precisionwellnessgroup.com, enroll, and become a patient today.
So, like, a lot of guys will, like, when they start ETSing,
Yeah.
they're done, Like, 6 months out, you're not if they call you, you're not even picking up the phone. They're like, "I'm getting out." I actually ran an FMP, like, the day before I packed up my U-Haul, so I was working the entire time.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they actually gave me my 𝐂𝐈. I was pinned 𝐂𝐈 on terminal leave, and that is, like, not a thing that happens. So, I like to think that was, like, a good signal of what I would put into the organization,
Fuck,
so
dude.
because they don't waste that slot, especially for dudes getting out. So, yeah, I got pinned on terminal leave. So, yeah, I ran an FMP as a fire team leader, and then I picked up my basically, FMP Wednesday, packed up my U-Haul Thursday, hit the road on Thursday, got back to Los Angeles on Friday. Friday, I went out to celebrate with my family, DUI Friday night.
Shit.
Yep. So I literally always make a joke that I RFS'd myself. Yeah. So I'm basically here. I got out November 11th officially, started terminal leave in October. So I went to a Halloween-like party, and here I am sitting in the drunk tank, DUI, dressed as a sailor.
No. No.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. My buddy works for LAPD, and I was like, "Hey, can you send me my mugshot?" And it's me in a sailor costume. And I'm like, "Damn, that's rough." But yeah, dude, it's looking back on it, it was funny, but, like, at the time, it destroyed me, because I was like, DUIs are the biggest killer of Rangers, like, DUIs kill more Rangers than bullets, because that kicks them out. So I'm like, "God, what do I do?" And I just enlisted in the National Guard too. So I basically went from Ranger
Fuck.
Regiment. Yeah. I did a transfer. So I did because I didn't want to get fully out because I still was in love with the military. But deployments were coming to an end. I started realizing when we're not deploying entire battalions at them anymore, like the chances of me getting to do my job are getting slimmer and slimmer. And like, I'm glad I made the decision to get out because it pretty much did. And other than like the Afghanistan withdrawal, and I also wanted to pursue other things like my education and whatnot. But I joined the National Guard just in case is that door that like go back to the military, that safe place that we've been in and we've excelled at. That's still an option. So the DUI made things a little rough in the National Guard, but I still had a really good time. On top of the DUI, about like 8 months later, I get a firearms charge. I get a carrying a concealed gun in my car charge. And that was because I had my Washington CCW and I was working executive protection, just like every good infantry guy does that
Yeah.
doesn't go police, you know? So I leave my pistol in my car. I'm doing an overnight static and I leave for annual training the next day. Didn't put my gun away properly in the trunk with like all the California things. Left for 2 weeks of training, came back, was driving my car around on probation from the DUI for search and seizure. So basically, I got pulled over for no front license plate because I bought my car after I graduated from RASP in Georgia, which doesn't have front license plates. So I don't even have like mounting brackets for it. So get pulled over for no front license plate. He's like, "Oh, you're on probation, for DUI. I'm going to check your car." And I like take my feet off the clutch because I drive stick like a man. And I kick something. I kick something underneath my seat. And I'm like, "What is that?" And I like reach down. I feel my handle of my little pea shield, and I'm like, "Uh-oh." I'm like, "Oh, just chill.
Shit.
No, shit, it's fine." He's just and yeah. And then he comes back. He's like, "You're on probation. I'm gonna go ahead and search your car." And I'm like, he's like, "Is there anything in there that you want to tell me about?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got my firearm," like trying to be super cool. I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I got my gun in my car, man. Like, you're going to find it anyways. Why be a POS and lie?" So it's like, "My pistol's underneath me. Like, my hands are right here. Let me know what you want me to do." And it's okay, get out of the car. So I get out of the car and another unit rolls up and we're like talking. And, I'm basically supplementing work because I moved in with my dad, right? Which is another like, I just used to be a ranger and now I'm in California and I can't afford rent because I don't have a
Mhm.
job, So that's another little hit to the ego,
Yeah.
which made me, I think, worse because I'm like, living with dad. And yeah, I'm talking with him and I have a ranger sticker on the back of my car, but it's not like screams ranger. It's like the ranger DUI pretty much. I don't know if you could see it
Yeah.
behind me with the neon sign. And he's like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's the unit I used to be trying to be mysterious and cool, you know?" So basically, the guy comes and he's like, I think he's just gonna be like, "All right, dude, veteran." I didn't have my ID on me because it expired because I got out of the military and I couldn't even get on post anymore because it was expired. Big problems. Like, this is a long story. And he's just like, all right, put your hands behind your back. I'm like, oh, what? It's basically expecting, like, oh, in Ranger Regiment, sometimes cops would take you back to post if they caught you drinking and driving, because they're like, this guy's a special operations dude. We got to give him the respect he deserves. Who cares if he's drinking and driving like a piece of shit, He's like, we're going to thank him for his service by not ending his career. And, that didn't happen all the times, but it's happened in the past. Thinking that's the treatment that I'm going to get, right? Almost like hearing my ego, my toxic ego. And boom, I get put in cuffs and spend 3 days in jail. And I'm like, dude, yeah, now I'm like what society would consider the lowest of the low when, a few months ago, I used to be what society considered the best of the best.
Best of the best, yeah.
Exactly. So, like, I'm sitting here in oranges. Who am I? What am I doing? And, like, that absolutely crushed me. So I finally got out of jail. I'm sitting here with $25,000 worth of loss, like retaining lawyer fees. And I'm just like, dude, I'm going to school. What? Like, this, like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure. And yeah, that was really hard. It was super hard. But that was kind of my turning point when I started thinking, like, hey, things need to change because obviously what we're doing here isn't working. And I think, to me, I would owe that, or at least 90% of it, to my fiance. I met my fiance at the time, and she was like really straight edge. And she was like, dude, you're a fucking loser. Essentially, on our first date, I remember I like, who tells their date that, oh, I'm actually on probation because I just got out of jail and I'm on DUI. I had a DUI. I'm on probation now for a gun charge. You want to meet up again? Usually people say, like, no. Yeah. But for some reason, I think she saw something in me, and yeah, she was just like, dude, you need to change your shit. And like, it took a lot of work, took a lot of arguing, took a lot of like dropping the ego, dropping the armor, and being like, there are good Rangers and there are good men. And oftentimes the two they don't cross.
Yeah.
Because you can be really fucking good at your job, but you can, be an alcoholic. You can beat your wife. You can be just a terrible father. And I saw it. I saw amazing operators that, needed to be at work because if you put them to their own devices, they could not function. And I think that's what happened to me. So, I owe it to my fiance to, she turned me around. She gave me a good taste of reality. I started going to counseling, started doing a lot of internal work, a lot of reflection. And I'm like, and I think that's what, I wasn't suicidal, but I will say it saved my life because if I didn't, change behavior, the chance of me like being in jail or incarcerated just due to stupid shit. Like,
Yeah.
it's high.
And it sounds like that's exactly where, if you didn't stop, if you didn't have an intervention, if you didn't meet your fiance to have that wake up call, it really sounds like you were headed towards even more issues.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it was ever going to be like, oh, I'll straighten out. Like, sometimes we do need that hard reset, that lowest of low being, there's so many of our brothers don't get that, or they don't even see it as being like, you're rock bottom. I can continue going. I'll continue going.
Yeah. It's like,
But
I
like,
still
in
run
your
a really
journey,
fast 5 mile.
Yeah.
I'll be okay.
Still fucking crushing it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. That.
Yeah. What was, when you look back and you reflect, like, at some point, I always say, like, it's not, no provider can make us do anything. Nobody can come in and make us change. What was a definitive line where you woke up and you're like, okay, I'm going to take this action today to start living better? What were some of the things you started doing to change course?
Ooh, that's a great question because, like, I don't really think there was like a definitive switch. I mean, ironically, I was just like that. I woke up one morning, I'm like, okay, something needs to change, but it takes work, right? So, like, there was, I think cutting small, achievable goals was like the main thing, and it wasn't always clear cut. Like, there is no path, and it's like, okay, well, 1 inch forward is better than 1 inch back, essentially. So it was just, I think communication was a big thing because, I feel like there's this huge operator syndrome, I call it, where like you keep everything inside and like you don't talk about anything, or even like you don't really need to talk to your fiance about it. You can talk to a counselor about it. You can talk to a battle buddy about it. You can talk to, somebody who's still in, somebody who's out, but just communicating something. And that, I think that's what I found value in when I was going through counseling through the VA. And it's just like sitting there and like talking. Cause like, I'll give you an example. I still go, and I've been going like,
Good man. Good
dude, yeah.
man.
And this happened in 2020. I've been going for 5, 6 years. And it's
Fuck
all,
yeah.
back then it was reactive counseling. Now it's proactive. Right. So just staying ahead and just communicating out. It's really funny. I have an amazing counselor. He's an infantry guy too. And so I feel like I can like be myself around him. And he's like, we're talking about something that's, what's going on. And he's like, how do you feel about it? And I'm like, honestly, I don't really feel anything about it. And then 20 minutes later, he's like, you just talked about 20 minutes about shit, like how you feel about it. And your first answer was, I don't really feel anything about it. And it's like, obviously that was incorrect. So I feel like communicating, or just like in my fiance, we'd sit down, and something I never did before would be like just literally talk. And it's like, I'm so used to just sitting there stone cold watching the TV. And I feel like so many people do this in their relationship where they're like on their phones, or like, and I'm still guilty of going back to that too, just being on my phone because terrible social media sucks. But it's part of the job.
It
But like
is.
just talking about what you're thinking about. I'd never do that because like military mindset was just like, who gives a fuck what I'm thinking? It's about the mission. So it's like, you know, it's like following the orders. So I still think like a military guy, even though I've been out for, years now. Well, officially out at 2023, but for some reason, I always think about like active duty as my line. But it's like, okay, everything we do is team oriented. Gotcha. As an individual, my feelings don't matter. My feelings don't matter. It's all about what's going to benefit the organization, benefit the team, become an asset, right? We've heard all these sayings. Some say they cliche. They have truth behind them. Otherwise, people wouldn't relate to them. But I started thinking more individually. And I'm like starting to prioritize myself. And I think that's been the hardest thing I've done is like, okay, well, like, the reason I keep myself up to these standards is because, it'll make me a better teammate or make me a better partner or whatnot. But I've seen it now enough times in like people that I've either I work with or people that I've encountered, veterans I've encountered, that like they're still focused on the team, that they're not taking care of their self. And then ultimately like that absence of self-care detriments the team. So so it's just like they think they're being team oriented by, putting everything on their back and basically giving themselves shin splints with all the weights and, but
Yeah,
they're
dude.
ironically
You're
destroying everything.
absolutely. We put on this mask of everything's fine. And we hyper focus on the team, your platoon, your company, at whatever leadership level you are. You focus on the men and the mission, and you're like, if I can just take care of everybody else magically, I'll be
Yeah.
fine. And then
Yeah.
you fall the fuck apart. And then it's like, yeah, dude, we could see that you're struggling, but you didn't say shit.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is 100% true. And I think that's what I was doing. Like, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to school. I'm in shape. I'm being a leader of men. I'm good. And it's just like, no, you just got out of jail.
You're
You're
far from
not.
good.
You're not good. You're not doing what you need to do, right, for yourself. So, yeah, I guess those, to answer your question a little bit more directly, over communication, whether that's with a counselor, with a partner, with a buddy, it's just reaching out and talking, not internalizing, everything, because I think there's a lot of value in feedback, whether you're asking for it or not. And that's something you can communicate as well, right? It all comes down to communication, where it's just like, hey, I don't want to hear, I just want you to listen for a second, or I just
Mhm.
want to talk about this for a second. Sometimes, communication can be one way, but understanding, communication as a whole, it's not just you, this is me.
Mhm.
There's a lot of different ways to skin that cat. So I think that's what's been a big help is like now I've emphasized over communicating to my partner because when I was under communicating or internalizing everything, that's when conflict would happen, right? 100%. And that conflict adds, turns into stress, and those stressors turn into toxic behavior. And essentially we regress. And it's like, okay, so I need to take a tactical pause here and be like, self-analyze. What am I doing? Because everyone's just like, it's somebody else's problem. It's somebody else's problem. But now I've
We're
just,
so good at that.
yeah, it's just like, dude, yeah, my rate of fire was every 3 seconds. Boom, I hit it. Yeah, yeah. And it's just like, dude, communication and accountability. We'll simply put it as that, right? Over communicate, and also there are chances that the chance is very high that you are doing something wrong. And it's like change of behavior. Change of behavior, because like we can't control other people, we can't control the scenario. We only can control how we feel about it and what we can do within it. So that's it, man. That's
Yeah.
been the whole sole reason that I've been able to make it to where I'm at now, I think.
Yeah. No, it's valuable insight, and that's something that not enough people are being willing to like come on the show or a video or just share that testimony of what it really means to go through your life and deal with these stressors, because it's not just us. This is something that happens to nearly every human being.
Yeah.
Everybody's dealing with their own issues. Everybody's carrying a different load. And sometimes we're not willing to ask for help. We're not willing to sit down and take a knee and be like, hey, how do you manage it? How do you manage it? Like, help me, give me some of your resources. Dude, it's a journey. Nothing that you go through in life is going to magically get rid of all the problems and issues. And if somebody's telling you that they have the answer to it, they're full of fucking shit. Life and mental health is a fucking journey. You're going to have
Yeah.
great days. You're going to have bad days. But I will tell you, you want the bad days because it gives you perspective on the good days. You're able to say like, hey, the last few years have been pretty fucking good. And I'm not where I used to be. Life is about continuing on this journey and figuring out the tools that you need, figuring out which ones work, which ones don't, and continuing the process, dude. And there's something to be said about that identity piece. Not enough people are sharing. Like, it is a jarring. Nobody walks out those gates and says, I'm ready to be a corporate fucking psychologist. I'm going to work in operational psychology. I'm going to get my degree. It's going to be perfect. Wow, life's going to be great. No, everybody stumbles. But there's an important aspect of once you get through that journey, once you find your new identity and rebuild it to be uniquely who you're meant to be, that incorporates all aspects of your life, everything that you did and everything you're going to do, you turn around and you help everybody else. Like, and another piece that I want to dive into is finding that purpose. One of the biggest struggles is individuals get out and they're like, fuck, I'm this great infantry leader. Now, where do I find this same calling? And the reality is, sorry, I hate to tell you this, you're not going to be an infantry leader out in the civilian world. You got to find a new purpose, a new mission. How'd you go about building that?
Great question. And I think I cheated the system, because I think that my transition to the National Guard fulfilled that for me. Because like I was still in a position of leadership in the quote unquote civilian world, right? Once a month, I would have, Joes underneath me that I could teach. And, I would like to think that I did a good job. And, so I feel like that fulfilled me. But when I got out, like fully out, then it was like, okay, start over again. Where do I go from here? The word community is a powerful thing, right? Because I think, fulfillment and community are synonyms, even though they're not. But in the sense of like finding that feeling inside that like makes you feel like you're part of something, right? Because that's where I got fulfillment in regiment, is I felt like I was part of one of the greatest light infantry fighting forces this planet has ever seen, right? And that was a feeling. And then I essentially went over to the National Guard, still was able to like scratch that autism of my military interest. And, but at that time I was working on, finding a community, and luckily I was able to totally do that. And it's just by finding, not necessarily like, I've always been obsessed with military stuff. So big into the tactical world, big into like the firearm industry. And, there's enough of us in this industry to where like, you can find a ranger or a special forces guy or any type of, even a SEAL if you like them. No, I love them, but they're on every corner, and like we share a lot of the same experiences and a lot of the same mindsets. So it's easy to find like, like-minded people. But it's just not about finding like-minded people, but doing things together
Mhm.
in a positive direction. Because obviously you can find like-minded people and go down a destructive path,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Seen that.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, you don't wanna do that. Yeah, because if they're like, "Hey, I got a great idea. We all got really good, CQB skills. Let's rob a bank." And it's like, that's not good, you know?
That may allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, take your license plate off if you do that.
This episode is brought to you by Pure Liberty Labs. Quality supplements designed to elevate your health and performance. Check out their full line of quality supplements, whether you're looking for whey protein, pre-workout, creatine, or a super greens drink. Pure Liberty Labs has you covered. Use my code SecurityHalt10 at checkout today. Don't take
But,
your grandma's car.
yeah, for real. But, no, doing,
Ugh.
finding like-minded individuals and doing impactful things in a positive manner. So luckily I found that with the training organization that I currently instruct for, Defense Strategies Group, it's like-minded dudes that just love to help people. And, however that is, there are way too many people in this world. Sorry, Thanos quote. But everybody has different likes, interests. Everybody wants something different, right? So I've luckily found an organization that helps people prepare themselves, right? And that's something I'm extremely passionate about. Even when I was a kid, like I was super obsessed with the military because I thought they were the most prepared. So now I've still been on that kind of path. So now the fact that I get to share some knowledge that I've learned, whether it's in the military and in my travels in the Netflix show and just things that I've been, obsessing with and learning on my own. I get to share that with people who are like-minded, who have similar interests, and that it benefits their life in a positive way. To me, that's fulfillment and that's creating a community. So that's the biggest thing for me. It's just like you don't need I think a lot of people get wrapped up in the fact that like when they're a veteran, they need to do veteran things, you
Yeah.
know? So I've met plenty of veterans. Also, a good thing about communicating, just talking to people, you learn a lot through talking to people. And I've met a handful of veterans in different jobs in different places of the world that you wouldn't expect at all. And actually, I had this idea. I wanted to make a TV show where, like, you would find just these weird, oddball locations and jobs, and I guarantee there'll be a military veteran doing it, and kind of like talk to them
100%.
and figure out why the hell are you here? And it's because, dude, it's just remaining true to yourself, right? Because you were a person before the military. You had interests and likes before the military. And I heard a very interesting thing from a buddy of mine, and it was like, okay, well, like, we always talk about loss of identity, but do you feel that you've lost your identity because you lacked one before the military?
Mm.
Right? Because you're given, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I think it's worth reflecting on. And it's like, okay, do you feel like you lost your identity because you didn't have one in the first place? And it's like you're still finding who you are. And it's like you were given a loaner, you're given a rental, and
Yeah.
then it was taken away from you. And you're like, well, I'm back. So doing things that you like, staying true to yourself, finding communities and things that you absolutely interest you. I think that is super important. Like, stop trying to fit this military mold because, like, I'll tell you what, dude, when I did the show with this nose piercing, man.
Bro, right here. Right here.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah, bro.
Bro,
Hell
I will
yeah.
tell you this. So I was actually rocking this the entirety of my last fucking year in the military.
Power move.
And here's why. Exactly what you said right now. I didn't have an identity. I had to go to a mental health treatment center, like work myself up from the bottom up, man. Like complete catastrophic place where I was willing to almost do something really stupid. I was really struggling and I almost did the one thing that you can't come back from. That's take your own life. And when I finally got help, when I finally went to a treatment center, I realized I didn't understand, after you dissect and pull everything apart and dig into everything, every little bit of your trauma, you realize, who the fuck am I when I leave this organization? Who the fuck am I when I take away this beret and long tab? We're a definitive success of something. I didn't have anything before that where I could be proud of. I was proud of what I did in the 82nd. I was proud of that. But at the end of the day, I was like, it was the first time I had achieved something monumental in my life. And it became everything. It became everything. And I remember I'm hanging out with my wife and her friend afterwards. This was just a few months after I got back from that treatment center, and they wanted to pierce their nose. I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Why the fuck not?
Yeah.
What they don't tell you is that thing is healing for fucking months.
Ever. And you can't
Months,
take it
dude.
out.
Yeah, and I was like, what the fuck am I? And then like everybody took theirs out like after a weekend. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure out a way of like fucking from fishing line to fucking
Dude.
little the plastic
The little
inserts
plastic
and just
caps.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was
I
because
got you.
I was realized I'm like, dude, I have made fun of everybody and everything from my entire life. I've been a critic of everybody.
Yeah.
But why? Long hair, fucking used to shit on and make fun of people. I'm like, what am I so fucking fixated on all these things? And I'm like, you know what? This is something for me. I'm gonna
Yeah,
fucking
dude.
keep this thing. I did my ears, did my nose, and I hardly ever wear earrings anymore. But this, I'm like, you know what? I like it. I fucking
Yeah.
like it. And I kept it. And I realized I'm like, that's the first definitive choice that I've made for myself. And
Yeah.
it was one of those things where it's like, fuck, dude, like this is me. I like it. I enjoy it. I'm gonna do that. And I think that's one of the most freeing moments in your life if you're able to go back into that environment. And like you said, Netflix show would appears nose. Like, what was it like for you making that definitive choice of like, I'm gonna pierce this. This is my thing.
Well, I'll tell you, the story was behind it was my fiance was like, you would look really good with a pierced nose. And I'm always like, I always wanted a nose piercing. But, I feel like the guys would make fun of me or whatever. And I think you are speaking 100% the truth that, like, when you start doing things that are definitively for yourself, that's the first step towards it, creating a permanent identity, right? And just doing things for yourself, not the team, forgetting that, but just doing things that make you happy. And there's fulfillment in that. So I got it. And it's funny because I was still in the National Guard and we just had been activated for the George Floyd riots. So here I
Shit.
am. Yeah, here I am in Los Angeles now with a brand new nose piercing. And I'm just like sitting on the corner. It was still masks. So I could like kind of like, they're like, put the mask on. And I'm like, okay. But I was like, screw the fucking masks. Like, I don't care about this. And I like took it out and our CO came up to me and he's like, what the fuck is in your face? And I'm like, oh, do you like it? He's like, to be honest, in the California National Guard, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I was one of very few that had like military accolades, right? A lot of
Yeah.
great people in the National Guard. It's just you don't get a lot of actual operational experience in that. But so I kind of had like a lot of free reign to like do what I wanted, which was, not the, it was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. But he's like, get the fucking thing out of your face. And I'm like, okay. So yeah, same thing, like doing like trying to keep it open because it will close up in like
Yep.
days or even like one day it'll be closed. And I actually had to end up re-piercing it afterwards. But, I found out that it's like, I really like this thing and I'm just going to rock it because like, not only does my fiance think it's, makes me look good, but also it makes me feel good. And, when I'm doing the Netflix show, now I'm going with like active duty personnel, right? So, and I still have this nose piercing. And I think the only time I ever took it out was Sweden because it was a safety concern, because the thing would literally freeze in I think it was like it was between -40 and -30 Celsius every day. So it's like metal in your face, not good. But I still had like a plastic cap in. But, people would give me shit about it. They'd be like, well, oh, you have a nose piercing, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, dude, it doesn't, for some reason, people think like having body modifications or a piercing or a tattoo makes you a terrible shot. And I would just smoke these fucking dudes. So, that earned me a lot of respect. And it was actually another funny story. I've also learned to laugh at myself a lot because like life's a comedy, man. Not to quote the Joker, but like 100%, life is funny. And I went on. Actually, the shirt I'm wearing is from another project I'm working on, where 22 former Rangers went down to the Philippines, and like these Rangers talk about loss of identity, or we'll call it imposter syndrome. That's another thing that affects a lot of people and has affected me a lot, especially now. And I'd love to talk about that a little bit because I'm sure.
Dude.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
really quick, I'm in the Philippines now, and look, my initial contract was 4.5 years, right? And so I did about just under 4 years in Ranger Regiment, 2nd Ranger Battalion. I went on one combat deployment. Didn't even get to shoot my gun. I got to shoot a bunch of mortar systems. The SF guys were there. We'd shoot hundreds of 120s a day, which I don't know how mortars like the job. It's super boring.
Yeah. It'll
Yeah.
fuck your brain up.
Yeah, dude. Oh, hundreds. Yeah. So hundreds of mortars, 120s a day, every day. And like, so I didn't get to do the like fucking picture. I didn't get to do what was on the advertisement, essentially.
Yeah.
You know, but I still got to do things that people don't get to do. So that took a
Absolutely.
lot of reflection too. You know, we'll get into that in a little bit. But I was in the Philippines with 22 former Rangers. These Rangers have some of the craziest accolades I've ever seen. We had dudes that jumped into Panama. We had dudes that jumped in that were literally the PL for Black Hawk Down. We had 3 retired regimental command sergeant majors with us. We had personnel that had like mustard stand, dude, like the most stacked old guys and not so old guys. We had dudes that were on Team Merrill. Like we had like just epic Rangers, and soft guys, the older ones would
Yeah.
be like, "You're a legend," then they'd be like, "Oh, I was just doing the thing."
Yeah.
Like, no, these
I'm
guys,
just a guy.
yeah, I'm just a guy. It's like, okay, but no, they were like, if you met them when you're in, you wouldn't talk to them because you're like, I'm not worthy. And now here I am, one enlistment, one deployment guy in a room trying to be accepted as a peer. They were like, obviously, you saw my nose piercing, and they were like nice nose piercing guy. And I was just like, yeah, man, where else am I going to tie down my nods? And they just all start fucking, and they just start cracking up. And after that, they're just, never said another word about it.
This episode is brought to you by Titan SARMs. Head on over to titansarms.com and buy a stack today. Use my code CDenny10 to get your first stack. I recommend the Lean Stack 2. Start living your best life. Titan SARMs. No junk, no bullshit, just results.
And I was just like, oh, you know what? This nose piercing, you don't tie down your nods to your fucking body, you pussy. And it's just like, dude, So, so I've learned to laugh at it. On the show, same thing, man. It's just like, oh, you think my nose piercing makes me a worse soldier? Check this out. And it's like,
yeah.
It's just accepting yourself. Who cares what other people think, man? It's like you said, a lot of people will make fun of other people just because they have their own problems. And like, I realize that and I accept that. So when people are super mean to me, I just like look at them and I smile. I say, have a good day, man.
Yeah. Dude, hurt people hurt people. That's
Yeah,
the
dude.
I remember, there's nothing worse than getting out of a mental health treatment center, coming back to work, knowing that everybody has now heard the rumor that you hear he went to a nut house, he almost killed himself. What a fucking loser. Fucking
Yeah.
faggot. What a loser. Nobody, he should have checked out for sure. Nobody like, oh, the stigma is real. And I will tell you, walking in there, you feel like a fucking 4 feet tall. You're just like, oh fuck, dude, I don't want to be here. But it's like, and you hear, like, I remember, of course, you go back and it's like immediately like, hey, I'm not fit. I'm not going to be doing this. I can't be a warrant officer on this team. Like, I need to go. So you go to S3, the dungeon, the cave. And I remember one of the worst moments in my entire life. Somebody was outside of that office and they were clearly making a joke loud enough so I could hear it about how much of a fucking pussy you'd have to be. And I'm just like, fuck, dude. Like, it took everything for me to fucking, in that moment, not just to fucking be like, fuck this, dude. Like, just get out, just fucking leave. I'm like, you know what? No. And I just remember, if they're willing to say that comment, if they're willing to be that petty, that mean, they're going through some shit too.
Yeah.
And like, I don't have to sit there. I don't have to internalize what they're saying. I know what they're saying is meant to be a dig at me. That's okay. I know I needed to go there. I'd rather be alive. I'd rather feel this hurt and this pain right now in this moment. And I just know someday that person will need somebody.
Yeah.
And I hope they have the right person in their life that can be there for them. That was a big turning point for me, man. Like, just understanding, like, people are going to say shit. It'll hurt. It'll be horrible. You know what? Be good. Be a force for good and be there for somebody else when they need you. Because hurt people, dude. And I guarantee back in my day, before I went through my downward spiral, I would have been just as cruel and just as mean, because it's just the environment.
Sure.
Alphas and guys that have to be fucking rough and tough and be the fucking meat eaters. It's hard to understand that they don't want to see somebody broken. They don't want to admit that, oh, fuck, that could be me someday.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things where, yeah, man, the best thing you can do is sometimes is just, you know what, take a deep breath and realize, hey, man, hurt people, and I hope that person gets better and gets the help they need. Yeah,
Yeah, dude. It takes work too.
it
Like,
does.
I still, talking about social media, I'll get 100 good comments being like, "Love the show," blah blah blah. One guy, one ass clown will be like, "Faggot," and I'll be like, "Fuck you," It's just like, dude, egos, man. Egos are
Same,
crazy.
same. But
Yeah.
I started what I started doing is I started reaching out on a DM. I
Mm,
remember one of the worst ones. I had a story, and recently there's been a lot of backlash because of one individual that has come out, and it's been found out that his entire book, his entire life
mm,
was all lies. So now there's just like, oh, every soft operator's a piece of shit. And one of the things I always share is tell your story, whether you're an 88 Mike, a 91 Bravo, whatever,
yeah.
95 Bravo, whatever you did in the military during the GWAT, tell your story. It could help somebody. It could be the next great selling book, because you never know. The combat isn't the same, and every story deserves to have its day in the spotlight. You never know what sharing your story could do for somebody. And it was just simple posts like that. Just encourage people to share the story to help each other. And this guy just had it out, and he was just on in the comments, just boom, 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 just like, faggot, fuck this. Nobody wants to hear this story. A bunch of fucking
Yeah.
faggot. I'm gonna get this YouTube censorship for saying, but it was
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
this guy, and then I reached out to him like, hey man, I just want you to know that I think you're a veteran, and I would be honored, and I would love to share your story on the show because you deserve your happy story told too. And it was the little bubbles, like
yeah.
the
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
about to reply, but it was almost like, holy fuck, I didn't expect this person to reach back out and say something nice. And then before you know it, I'm thinking the message is going to come through, and it doesn't. And immediately it's like you're blocked and removed. And it's like, oh, shit, so like,
Yeah,
it's almost
dude.
like when you reached out and you caught somebody in a moment of like, fuck, I don't even know how to respond to this. I'm
Yeah.
just going to retreat and block. That's
Yeah,
exactly what they did.
miserable. Just a miserable dude. And
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
I get 100% to get it and believe it. It's like, how many guys, and first of all, I'm a firm believer of being 100% true, because guess what? There are more people that have served in the military that can probably relate to sitting on a fob and doing nothing than to hear this absolute nutso butso war story, right? The guys that have done that, they're slowly fizzling out, and I love those stories, and they deserve to be recognized. But that's not me, dude. I can't. That can I've had some cool experiences that I think are cool, but they pale in comparison to some of these dudes that I've met. But like, I think it is still worth sharing, and not
Yes.
only what I did, but how did I get over, or how not necessarily how did I get over, but how did I, come to the conclusion that, "Oh, that was okay." You know? Everything I did was okay, and instead of focusing on the people that I didn't kill, focusing on like, "Hey, I did everything that was required of me. All my guys that were underneath me came home alive. We accomplished our mission." Right?
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that matters. Like, I there was a moment on my deployment. I deployed to Syria in 2017, and there was a moment on that deployment where I actually felt like I did my job. Right? Shooting mortar systems. This is why I say they're not exciting, because like, you don't know where they go. And like, we were working with some SF guys, and it was a crazy deployment scene. It's us, Delta, SAS, SF
Yeah.
dude, Rangers, French, tier one, and we're all under one building. And it's like, this is crazy. We all have beards, and we're dressed in civilian clothes most of the time. And I'm sitting there shooting one of these when I want to, or I go to the CCP, the casualty collection point, and I work on live tissue with no certifications. Like, dude, I'm amputating legs with these guys. We're
Fuck.
literally, yeah, it was crazy. I got like 600 hours, damn near close to 600 hours of actual OR time, like underneath my belt, just with like Ranger First Responder and TCCC training. It
Fuck
was,
yeah, dude.
yeah, so that was
You're
crazy.
saving lives.
Yeah, no, literally. But here I am focused on, I shot hundreds of mortars probably throughout that trip, and like, couple times we'll have an ISR asset up, or like the SF guys would throw their Raven up so they can get, BDA, battle damage assessment, and like see impacts on target. And like I remember one time, and like I've talked about this on numerous podcasts because it fucked me up. Because like here I am shooting like 5-round fire mission 120, boom, 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 hanging them, and like the SF guy on the back of the truck who's watching the live feed, he's like, bro, you just leveled a building. Like the enemy was definitely in there. You just killed fucking people. And like here I am finally, yeah, like we did it, boys, we did it.
Yeah.
And I feeling super proud of myself because I'm finally here. I took the fight to the enemy, like we killed them. And I walk back into our like living quarters, which is on the 3rd level of this schoolhouse that we took over. And like my weapon squad leader's sitting there, and I was a gun team leader at the time. So I had my ranger tab, I was in charge of people, and I walk in all, chest puffed out, and I'm like, guess who just fucking finally did their job, man. And my the weapon squad leader, which is the most senior guy besides the platoon sergeant, looks at me and he goes, it doesn't fucking count unless you get to play with the dead body, so shut the fuck up. And like, dude, way to just shit in my pie. And it's like I couldn't have anything. And even what I felt like even when I felt like I accomplished the reason that I joined, the reason that I went through, at this point, I'd been in for almost 3 years. I went through I went through basic, I went through airborne, I went through RASP, I went through Ranger School. And the reason I put up with, some of the most strenuous training in the military was to do this moment. He took it away from me, So that's all I focused on, was how I didn't get to do my job, instead of focusing on, we accomplished our mission. I did everything that was expected of me past the standard. We got to save lives in the CCP. Nobody has those. Like, not a lot of people in the military,
No.
have
no,
life
dude.
issue if they're not a medic. Like, I got to do that. I got to learn a lot. Literally, I had these crazy experiences, and here I am focusing on not shooting my rifle system because I am a rifleman, or I'm a fire team leader. My primary is my rifle, and I'm just fucking tunnel visioned on it. And I remember I'm on a date with my fiance, and we're sitting at dinner, and she's like kind of picking and prodding, and she's like, I forgot what she exactly asked me, but we're on the topic of my deployment, and I pretty much said that. I'm like, I wish I could have shot people, And she looks at me, or she's like, I wish I killed more people. And she looks at me and she goes, do you have any idea what you sound like right now? She's like, you literally were a fire team leader in a regiment. You deployed. You got your ranger tab. You were in RFS. You showed up every day. You're in shape. You have all your arms. You got your mind. You're still sharp. What's the problem?
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck. Yeah, you're right. And like, that was kind of like a moment where I was like, fuck, yeah. Like, there are people that get to tell a story about having friends pass away, or talking about like how many demons they have. And for some reason, there is this like glorification of trauma within the military complex. Right. And it's like, I need trauma. I want to have problems. I want mental health issues so I can go on podcasts and talk about what fucked me up. And I'm like, dude, why do I want that? Because you've lived it firsthand, how traumatic and just detrimental it can be to not only yourself, but people you're around you. And it's just like, why is this romanticized? Why do
because
soft guys?
it's the only thing that gets promoted. It's the highlighting, but the reality is, like, you miss the real encouragement, the real stories of perseverance. Like, it's not, we shouldn't just be focused on one aspect, one small percentage of our GWAT veterans.
Yeah.
Every single veteran has a story. And I promise you, if you sit down, you just talk with each other, you're going to walk away feeling better. You're probably going to laugh because a lot of these stories are involve some hilarious shit.
Yeah.
And you're going to walk away understanding that your story matters too.
Yeah.
Being able to share and promote every aspect of our veteran experience is important, man. It's not just about trauma.
Sure.
It's about understanding that, like, dude, like, one of the coolest things you could ever experience is seeing one of your friends doing something remarkable, being in an OR, helping out some of the best surgeons, some of the best medics in the world, and
Yeah.
understanding that, dude, my buddy, you hear the story my buddy tells? Like, he wasn't even a medic, and he was out there helping people, patch them up, like, helping with amputations. Like, the dude's got like 600 hours under his belt of doing stuff.
Yeah.
And those stories are out there. I have one of my freaking friends that was an 18 Delta, kept the dude alive on the back of a fucking airplane. He got shot in the head. Like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Nuts.
That's
It's
fucking
crazy.
insane. That's awesome. We don't hear those stories. We don't hear enough of the stories of guys being able to do remarkable things that doesn't involve walking in, being number one man and blowing Bin Laden's brains out. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, dude. No, I
that's
feel
cool and all, but
it is
there's
super
more
cool.
to it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that just reminds me of a story from that, and, like, there's people I look up to, like, a lot. Like, I have a buddy, Adam, who was our medic on that deployment. He went on to actually, like, liaison over at SF in 20th Group or 19th in Utah. Like, didn't have to go through the queues, just fucking went over there, you know? So, it's
Hell
just
yeah.
absolute stud, and, like, it was me and him in the CCP, and we used to have a gym, like a gym in a box set up in one of the rooms because we had like 2 ORs and the gym and a living quarters because one of the Ranger squads had to live in the CCP, and that was
Fuck.
weird. Yeah, dude. So, uh, I remember we're like on the bench and we're like benching and just getting beefy on deployment and just there used to be this little like bell that would go off like when a casualty would come in. So we're mid bench, hear the bell, and we like look at each other and we're like, "Wanna go help?" We're like, "Yeah." So we go in and the dude's on the table, completely redlining. Like we start compressions immediately, and it's like Adam and I glove up really quick, and we just start fucking doing compressions on this dude for like 20 minutes, and then they come in, shock him, boom, and then keep going 20 minutes, and then after, you know, when you're doing compressions on a guy, the chances of him actually coming back from that slim to none.
Slim to done. Yeah. Very, very
Oh yeah.
rare.
So all of a sudden they shock him after like the third or fourth time. Boom. We get a pulse. Doosh, doosh, doosh. And we look at each other, we're like dabbing up. We're like, hell yeah. Immediately went back in the gym and finished our set of bench.
Fuck
And I'm
yeah,
like,
dude.
dude, I was like, so those are the moments like where I think back and I'm like, instead of thinking about my squad leader telling me how much of a bitch I am because I killed people with mortars and not my rifle, then thinking about that where now I feel giddy inside and now I want to give that guy a call and be like, dude, yeah, how are you?
That's fucking more cool.
Yeah.
That's something we don't talk about. Like that you brought somebody back to life with something that has like you said, it's like 1% shot of coming back, dude.
Yeah.
That's
So
fucking badass, man.
those are cool. So, even though I only had one deployment, it was one deployment filled with a lot of positivity,
Yeah.
and I'm extremely thankful for it.
Yeah. We can't dwell on the what it wishing it would have turned out differently or wishing you would have gotten one more trip or wishing that you would have had a combat trip. Like, dude, like
Yeah, dude.
look at what you did get. Look what you do
Yeah.
have. You still
Yeah.
have something to be proud of and remarkable, man. And then to wrap it all up, man, like being able to look where you're at now, where are you headed? What's next? What's on the horizon for you?
That's a great question. I feel like I've gotten, the whole where I started off on Gameology and commenting on like video games and then having my
Yeah,
own
dude.
channel with my good friend Israel, another Green Beret, and then going to Netflix and, being able to travel around the world and train with, you know, continue to do the thing I love, which is the military without the red tape of like, hey, you have to shave or take your. That was amazing. That was the best part. But man, I just want to continue to create, continue to, whether it's motivate people, I don't care. I just want people to like realize that like, hey, there's more to life after service. Don't try to nickel and dime opportunities because so many people get like analysis paralysis and they're like, I have to
Yeah.
be on this path. I need to go, join this S&P 500 company. And I'm like, dude, all my opportunities came to me randomly. I did not pursue Netflix. I did not pursue the creating
Really?
thing percent. I just was myself. And when opportunities came, I took them, see where they led. If they went to other things, fantastic. If it's not, I'm going to keep doing the thing, right? So just be a positive guy, just like when you're in selection, people ask me, well, what's the secret to, RASP? Or I'm going to selection. What do I need to do? What's the secret? And I'm like, there is no secret, dude. It's like, selection is simple, but it's not easy. And the secret, if you really wanted me to manifest something, is just be a fucking good guy.
There he is.
That's it.
That's it, dude. Be a good dude.
Yeah.
Be a
Be a
good
good dude.
fucking dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whatever that means to you, right? It's subjective.
No. Dude, Cameron, I can't thank you enough for being here, man. This
Of
has
course.
been a remarkable fucking deep dive. Man, yeah, I'm walking away with a bunch of nuggets, dude. I can't wait to fucking get the reels up because there's so many moments where I'm just like, fuck, dude. My man, you're speaking truth that people need to listen to and hear. And I'll just leave it at this, man. For you guys listening, one of the biggest takeaways right now at the very end is be good and believe that there's a greater power. Believe that the universe will listen, will hear your prayers, and good things will come your way if you're a good fucking human being, man.
That's it,
Cameron,
man.
if people want to check out your content, where can they go?
But yeah, you guys, you can check me out on Instagram. That's pretty much where I'm most active. That's Cameron C. Fath. I also am going to be diving back into my YouTube side, which is Cameron Fath on YouTube. And then a couple projects that I'd love to shout out really quick is
Yes, please.
Journey to Cabanatuan, the shirt I'm wearing right now. It's speaking of those 22 Rangers that went over to the Philippines, we're creating a documentary for it, and it's just such an amazing, talk about positivity and just wanting to create awesome things. This is one of those projects, and we're currently fundraising more for it to finish it. So if you're interested in it, head on over to Legends of the 75th, and there's a donation link there if you're curious or want to know more about the project. And then also, we have I have a documentary coming out with Vet TV called Rangers Leading the Way, which is going to Best Ranger competition and just getting to go inside and seeing just the badass human beings all those competitors were, and just following them, seeing like, why the hell would people want to do this, right? So check that out. Should be coming out fairly soon. So that's all I got, dude.
Yeah, hell yeah. Do me a favor, guys. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, go ahead and go to episode description. Look at all those links. Put them there for you. Do me a favor. Just click them. Just click one or two.
Do it.
If you want. If you like. I mean, you don't have to. I'd appreciate it if you did. And Cameron would too.
Me too.
And then do me one last favor. Head on over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or even Overcast FM. Leave me a like. Give me a follow. Leave a review. 5 stars. I don't care what you put in there. Be like, Denny loves kissing hot dogs before he eats them. That's a real review. And who knows why you put that there, but I appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Cameron, thank you for being here. And to everybody out there, be good to each other and be good dudes, and we'll see you all next time. Till then, take care. Secured Out Podcast is proudly sponsored by Titans Arms. Head to the episode description and check out Titans Arms today.